How wonderful is death! Death and his brother Sleep. One pale as yonder waning moon, with lips of lurid blue, the other rosy as the morn when throned on ocean's wave it blushes o'er the world, yet both so passing wonderful. Hath then the gloomy power whose reign is in the tainted sepulchres seized on her sinless soul? Must then that peerless form which love and admiration cannot view without a beating heart, those azure veins which steal like streams along a field of snow, that lovely outline which is fair as breathing marble, perish? Must putrefaction's breath leave nothing of this heavenly sight but loathsomeness and ruin? Spare nothing but a gloomy theme on which the lightest heart might moralize? Or is it only a sweet slumber stealing o'er sensation, which the breath of roseate morning chaseth into darkness? Will Ianthe wake again, and give that faithful bosom joy, whose sleepless spirit waits to catch light, life, and rapture from her smile? Yes, she will wake again, although her glowing limbs are motionless, and silent those sweet lips, once breathing eloquence that might have soothed a tiger's rage, or thawed the cold heart of a conqueror. Her dewy eyes are closed, and on their lids, whose texture fine scarce hides the dark blue orbs beneath, the baby's sleep is pillowed. Her golden tresses shade the bosom's stainless pride, curling like tendrils of the parasite around a marble column. Hark! Whence that rushing sound? 'Tis like the wondrous strain that round a lonely ruin swells, which, wandering on the echoing shore, the enthusiast hears at evening. 'Tis softer than the west wind's sigh. 'Tis wilder than the unmeasured notes of that strange lyre whose strings the genie of the breezes sweep. Those lines of rainbow light are like the moonbeams when they fall through some cathedral window, but the tints are such as may not find comparison on earth. Behold the chariot of the fairy queen! But chief, ambiguous man, he that can know more misery and dream more joy than all, whose keen sensations thrill within his breast, to mingle with a loftier instinct there, lending their power to pleasure and to pain, yet raising, sharpening, and refining each, who stands amid the ever-varying world, the burthen or the glory of the earth. He chief perceives the change. His being notes the gradual renovation and defines each movement of its progress on his mind. Man, where the gloom of the long polar night lowers o'er the snow-clad rocks and frozen soil, where scarce the hardiest herb that braves the frost basks in the moonlight's ineffectual glow, shrank with the plants and darkened with the night. His chilled and narrow energies, his heart insensible to courage, truth, or love, his stunted stature and imbecile frame, marked him for some abortion of the earth, fit compeer of the bears that roamed around, whose habits and enjoyments were his own. His life, a feverish dream of stagnant woe whose meagre wants but scantily fulfilled, apprised him ever of the joyless length which his short being's wretchedness had reached. His death, a pang which famine, cold, and toil, long on the mind, whilst yet the vital spark clung to the body stubbornly had brought. All was inflicted here that earth's revenge could wreak on the infringers of her law. One curse alone was spared, the name of God.
Brothers, between you and me whirlwinds sweep and billows roar. Yet in spirit oft I see on thy wild and winding shore freedom's bloodless banners wave, feel the pulses of the brave unextinguished in the grave, see them drenched in sacred gore, catch the warrior's gasping breath murmuring liberty or death. Shout aloud. Let every slave crouching at corruption's throne start into a man and brave, racks and chains without a groan. And the castle's heartless glow and the hovel's vice and woe fade like gaudy flowers that blow, weeds that peep and then are gone, whilst from misery's ashes risen, love shall burst the captive's prison. Cotopaxi, bid the sound through thy sister mountains ring, till each valley smile around at the blissful welcoming. And O thou stern ocean deep, thou whose foamy billows sweep shores where thousands wake to weep, whilst they curse a villain king, on the winds that fan thy breast, bear thou news of freedom's rest. Can the day-star dawn of love, where the flag of war unfurled floats with crimson stain above the fabric of a ruined world? Never, but to vengeance driven, when the patriot spirit shriven seeks in death its native heaven. There to desolation hurled, widowed love may watch thy bier, balm thee with its dying tear.
To a balloon laden with knowledge. Bright ball of flame that through the gloom of even silently takest thine ethereal way, and with surpassing glory dimm'st each ray, twinkling amid the dark blue depths of heaven. And like the fire thou bearest, soon shalt thou fade like a meteor in surrounding gloom, whilst that, unquenchable, is doomed to glow a watchlight by the patriot's lonely tomb, a ray of courage to the oppressed and poor, a spark, though gleaming on the hovel's hearth, which through the tyrant's gilded domes shall roar, a beacon in the darkness of the earth, a sun which o'er the renovated scene shall dart like truth where falsehood yet has been.
On leaving London for Wales. Hail to thee, Cambria, for the unfettered wind which from thy wilds, even now, methinks I feel, chasing the clouds that roll in wrath behind, and tightening the soul's laxest nerves to steel. True mountain liberty alone may heal the pain which custom's obduracies bring, and he who dares in fancy even to steal one draught from Snowdon's ever-sacred spring blots out the unholiest reed of worldly witnessing. And shall that soul, to selfish peace resigned, so soon forget the woe its fellows share? Can Snowdon's Lethe from the freeborn mind so soon the page of injured penury tear? Does this fine mass of human passion dare to sleep, unhonouring the patriot's fall, or life's sweet load in quietude to bear, while millions famish even in luxury's hall, and tyranny, high raised, stern lowers on all? No, Cambria, never may thy matchless veils a heart so false to hope and virtue shield, nor ever may thy spirit-breathing gales waft freshness to the slaves who dare to yield. For me, the weapon that I burn to wield, I seek amid thy rocks to ruin hurled, that reason's flag may over freedom's field, symbol of bloodless victory, wave unfurled, a meteor sign of love effulgent o'er the world. Do thou, wild Cambria, calm each struggling thought. Cast thy sweet veil of rocks and woods between, that by the soul to indignation wrought, mountains and dells be mingled with the scene. Let me forever be what I have been, but not forever at my needy door. Let misery linger, speechless, pale and lean. I am the friend of the unfriended poor. Let me not madly stain their righteous cause in gore.
To Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin. Mine eyes were dim with tears unshed. Yes, I was firm, thus wert not thou. My baffled looks did fear yet dread to meet thy looks. I could not know how anxiously they sought to shine with soothing pity upon mine. To sit and curb the soul's mute rage which preys upon itself alone. To curse the life which is the cage of fettered grief that dares not groan, hiding from many a careless eye the scorned load of agony. Upon my heart thy accent sweet of peace and pity fell like dew on flowers half dead. Thy lips did meet mine tremblingly, thy dark eyes threw their soft persuasion on my brain, charming away its dream of pain. We are not happy, sweet. Our state is strange and full of doubt and fear. More need of words that ills abate. Reserve or censure come not near our sacred friendship, lest there be no solace left for thee and me. Gentle and good and mild thou art, nor can I live if thou appear aught but thyself, or turn thine heart away from me, or stoop to wear the mask of scorn, although it be to hide the love thou feel'st for me.
To Wordsworth. Poet of nature, thou hast wept to know that things depart which never may return. Childhood and youth, friendship and love's first glow have fled like sweet dreams, leaving thee to mourn. These common woes I feel. One loss is mine, which thou too feel'st, yet I alone deplore. Thou wert as a lone star, whose light did shine on some frail bark in winter's midnight roar. Thou hast, like to a rock-built refuge, stood above the blind and battling multitude. In honoured poverty thy voice did weave songs consecrate to truth and liberty. Deserting these, thou leavest me to grieve, thus having been, that thou shouldst cease to be.
Alastor, lines 140 to 202. The poet wandering on, through Arabian Persia and the wild Caymanian waste, and o'er the aerial mountains which pour down Indus and Oxus from their icy caves, in joy and exultation held his way, till, in the vale of Kashmir, far within its loneliest dell, where odorous plants entwine beneath the hollow rocks a natural bar, beside a sparkling rivulet he stretched his languid limbs. A vision on his sleep there came, a dream of hopes that never yet had flushed his cheek. He dreamed a veiled maid sat near him, talking in low, solemn tones. Her voice was like the voice of his own soul, heard in the calm of thought. Its music long, like woven sounds of streams and breezes, held his inmost sense suspended in its web of many-coloured woof and shifting hues. Knowledge and truth and virtue were her theme, and lofty hopes of divine liberty, thoughts the most dear to him, and poesy, herself a poet. Soon the solemn mood of her pure mind kindled through all her frame a permeating fire. Wild numbers then she raised with voice stifled in tremulous sobs, subdued by its own pathos. Her fair hands were bare alone, sweeping from some strange harp, strange symphony, and in their branching veins the eloquent blood told an ineffable tale. The beating of her heart was heard to fill the pauses of her music, and her breath tumultuously accorded with those fits of intermitted song. Sudden she rose, as if her heart impatiently endured its bursting burthen. At the sound he turned, and saw by the warm light of their own life her glowing limbs beneath the sinuous veil of woven wind, her outspread arms now bare, her dark locks floating in the breath of night, her beamy bending eyes, her parted lips outstretched and pale and quivering eagerly. His strong heart sunk and sickened with excess of love. He reared his shuddering limbs and quelled his gasping breath and spread his arms to meet her panting bosom. She drew back a while, then, yielding to the irresistible joy, with frantic gesture and short breathless cry, folded his frame in her dissolving arms. Now blackness veiled his dizzy eyes, and night involved and swallowed up the vision. Sleep, like a dark flood suspended in its course, rolled back its impulse on his vacant brain. Roused by the shock, he started from his trance. The cold white light of morning, the blue moon low in the west, the clear and garish hills, the distinct valley and the vacant woods spread round him where he stood. Whither have fled the hues of heaven that canopied his bower of yesternight? The sounds that soothed his sleep, the mystery and the majesty of earth, the joy, the exaltation? His worn eyes gaze on the empty scene as vacantly as ocean's moon looks on the moon in heaven.
The awful shadow of some unseen power floats, though unseen, among us, visiting this various world with as inconstant wing as summer winds that creep from flower to flower, like moonbeams that behind some piny mountain shower it visits with inconstant glance each human heart and countenance, like hues and harmonies of evening, like clouds in starlight widely spread, like memory of music fled, like aught that for its grace may be dear, and yet dearer for its mystery. Spirit of beauty, that dost consecrate with thine own hues all thou dost shine upon of human thought or form, where art thou gone? Why dost thou pass away and leave our state, this dim, vast vale of tears, vacant and desolate? Ask why the sunlight not forever weaves rainbows o'er yon mountain river, why aught should fail and fade that once is shown, why fear and dream and death and birth cast on the daylight of this earth such gloom, why man has such a scope for love and hate, despondency and hope. No voice from some sublimer world hath ever to sage or poet these responses given. Therefore the names of demon, ghost, and heaven remain the records of their vain endeavour, frail spells, whose uttered charm might not avail to sever from all we hear and all we see, doubt, chance, and mutability. Thy light alone, like mist o'er mountains driven, or music by the night wind sent through strings of some still instrument, or moonlight on a midnight stream, gives grace and truth to life's unquiet dream. Love, hope, and self-esteem like clouds depart and come, for some uncertain moments lent. Man were immortal and omnipotent, didst thou, unknown and awful as thou art, keep with thy glorious train firm state within his heart. Thou messenger of sympathies, that wax and wane in lovers' eyes, thou that to human thought art nourishment, like darkness to a dying flame, depart not as thy shadow came. Depart not, lest the grave should be, like life and fear, a dark reality. While yet a boy, I sought for ghosts, and sped through many a listening chamber, cave and ruin and starlight wood, with fearful steps pursuing hopes of high talk with the departed dead. I called on poisonous names with which our youth is fed. I was not heard, I saw them not, when musing deeply on the lot of life at that sweet time when winds are wooing all vital things that wake to bring news of birds and blossoming. Sudden thy shadow fell on me. I shrieked and clasped my hands in ecstasy. I vowed that I would dedicate my powers to thee and thine. Have I not kept the vow? With beating heart and streaming eyes, even now I call the phantoms of 1,000 hours, each from his voiceless grave. They have envisioned bowers of studious zeal or love's delight, outwatched with me the envious night. They know that never joy illumed my brow, unlinked with hope that thou wouldst free this world from its dark slavery, that thou, O awful loveliness, wouldst give whate'er these words cannot express. The day becomes more solemn and serene when noon is past. There is a harmony in autumn and a lustre in its sky, which through the summer is not heard or seen, as if it could not be, as if it had not been. Thus let thy power, which like the truth of nature on my passive youth descended, to my onward life supply its calm, to one who worships thee, and every form containing thee, whom, spirit fair, thy spells did bind to fear himself and love all humankind.